our show. Our topic today very well could be the health and wellness discovery of the 21st century. It has only been truly available in the United States and the rest of the Western world for less than a decade, yet it's already one of the most popular nutritional supplements in the world. I'm talking about the global phenomenon that is NONI juice. Hello, I'm James Jameson. My guest today is truly one of the world's foremost medical experts on NONI juice. He's a Johns Hopkins hospital-trained physician with both an MD and a PhD. He did research and taught on the medical school faculty at Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions and at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, where he held the positions of Assistant Professor of Medicine and Associate Professor of Physiology. He also enjoyed a brilliant medical career that spanned 3 decades. My guest is a New York Times best-selling author and for 18 years wrote a global medical column for the Los Angeles Times Syndicate. He has dedicated nearly 10 years of his life to the study of NONI juice. His published findings have sold more than 1 million copies worldwide. When he is not studying NONI juice, he serves as a pro bono health consultant and advisor to the International Council of Caring Communities, an NGO of the United Nations. I'm pleased you could join us today, Dr. Neil Solomon.
James, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. Dr. Solomon, as I mentioned in your introduction, you've enjoyed a brilliant 30-year career as a health professional and researcher and author. Given that background, what interested you in finding alternative medicines as opposed to traditional medicines, or is there something wrong with traditional medicine?
There's nothing wrong with traditional medicine. I was trained in traditional medicine. I love traditional medicine, but there's more to medicine than just traditional medicine.
Yes.
There are other areas that can complement traditional medicine. And the thing that really got me into the study of NONI was the fact that I saw a lot of patients in the hospital and out of the hospital who were getting ill because they were taking medications. Now, medications are important to take. You need to take your medications, but you should take the least amount that will do the job. And sometimes you can take fruit supplements, and that will allow you to take less medication, and therefore you'll have less side effects. So with this open-minded attitude that I have, I decided that it would be very interesting to see if we could do something with natural healing.
That's good, Dr. Solomon. Now, with all of the natural remedies that are out on the market today, what was it that ultimately caused you to select NONI juice? And what is NONI juice anyway?
The reason I selected NONI juice was in 1996. I was an editor of a health journal, and we looked into new aspects of health and medicine. And the publisher asked me, he said, Dr. Solomon, do you know anything about NONI? I said, no, what is it? He said, well, that's what I want to know what it is. Can you find out? And I said, sure. So what I did is I called my friends at Johns Hopkins. Not one of them heard about it. I called my friends around the world who are professors of medicine in high-esteemed, prestigious hospitals and medical schools. Not one of them heard about it. And I came back and I said, I can't find anybody that heard anything about NONI. But in my study of the literature, I did find the name Dr. Ralph Heineke. And so I phoned up Dr. Ralph Heineke. And I said, Dr. Heineke, this is Dr. Neil Solomon. I'm looking into NONI. What can you tell me about it? And at first, he said, well, a little defensive. He said, well, wait a minute. What do you want to know about NONI for? I said, well, I think it's interesting. From what I heard, it helps lots of people for lots of different things. And that opened him up, and then he started telling me about it. And he said, yes. He told me all the things that they help for, from headaches to arthritis to cancer. You name it, it didn't help. And I said, well, do you know anybody I can talk to in the United States who can tell me about it? Somebody who's taken it, and they could tell me really what they felt. And no problem. And I got a name, and then from that person, I got other names, and then from that person, got other names, and pretty soon I had a stable of people who were telling me about NONI. And it did help. According to them, it helped them from cancer, heart disease, arthritis, rheumatism, sexual problems, all the way to stroke. And each of them had their own particular problem, and each of them told me their own story. And they were fascinating stories. To name a few of these people, there was Ken and Mary Rowland, where arthritis was a problem. There was Drew and Maeva White, and they had cancer problems. There was Mark and Joe Rosen, and they had infectious problems.
That is an amazing testimony, Dr. Solomon. Now, with that, can you give me a little history on NONI?
Sure, James. It all started around 200 years before Christ. And at that time, in the South Pacific, around Tahiti, they were using NONI. The natives were taking NONI. And in fact, they called it the canoe plant, because whenever the natives went from one island to another, they always had NONI. This is what NONI looks like, James. And they took it because if they got sick, they knew they could bite it, chew it up, or squeeze it, and make a juice. And it was also a good emergency food. It could keep them going in case of starvation. Things were pretty quiet until 1769, when Captain James Cook discovered NONI at the island of Tahiti. When he went to Tahiti, what he found was NONI. And he found people in the island, the natives particularly, were drinking, eating, and taking NONI because they swore that it helped them with many, many health conditions. And a father would pass it down to the son would pass it down to a grandson. It just kept going down and down. And it was just built into their culture. And nothing much happened with NONI until 1943, when during World War II, the American soldiers were looking for something to eat in case they got stranded in the Southwest Pacific. And what the Army did is the Army looked at different indigenous plants, and they came up with NONI. And they said that NONI is a verifiable, edible plant, and they put it in the military field handbook. Things, again, were pretty quiet until 1972. In 1972, Dr. Ralph Heineke, the man I phoned up and asked about, he discovered the 𝕤𝕤 system. Now, the 𝕤𝕤 system is a system of compounds and substances in NONI that he believes does the good. It's the good activated part of NONI. And then in 1993, two food scientists from Utah, John Wadsworth and Stephen Story, decided that they had to take this substance and make it edible. Make it so it tasted good, so that people in the United States could drink it, because they wanted to bring it to the United States. And they did. And they formulated what is now known as Tahitian NONI juice. Again, from 93 to 96, not much happened, but in 96, it was released to the market. And since 96, it's amazing what's happened. In 2002, NONI became from 0 to the number 6 in the top 10 medical herbs used in the United States.
Wow.
I mean, that's a meteoric rise.
That's amazing.
I've never heard any other substance to do that before. No other food supplement that I know has done that. In year 2003, NONI juice passed, and particularly Tahitian NONI juice, because that is the one that was studied. And that passed the inspection of Europeans' Novel Food Act Committee. That meant that it was safe and it could be used in Europe. And indeed it was. Also in 2003, Tahitian NONI juice was listed in the PDR. That's the Physician's Desk Reference. And that is the Bible for drugs, and in this case, over-the-counter or food supplements. They were listed as a food supplement, and again, it was safe. And in 2004, there were over 64 scientific studies that were listed and published on NONI. And these can be found at PubMed.com. overcome.
Wow. That's a pretty long and detailed history. Now, to kind of help us frame today's discussion, give us an idea of the depth and the breadth of your research. How many health professionals and NONI drinkers did you contact, and how many countries did your research encompass?
What I did is I went around the world, not once, but twice. I wanted to talk to professionals, health professionals who used tahitian noni juice and recommended for their clients. And then I wanted to talk to the people that they had recommended it to see how they did. It was amazing what I found. There were over 1,200 health professionals that had used it, and I invited them to send me their study data and send me what they had found, and they did. They have sent me all kinds, and that represented over 25,000 tahitian noni drinkers. That's a lot of people that drink tahitian noni juice. And this my study started in '96 and has gone till the present time. And this encompassed over 80 countries and 29 different health conditions where tahitian noni juice helped.
Wow, that's a pretty long trip, isn't it? Has there been much research and publishing done on NONI?
Yes, there has. It started back with Dr. Ralph Hlynecke, and by 1999, when I wrote a book about this called The NONI Phenomenon, I cited over 20 references about tahitian noni juice. And in 2004, when I wrote the next book about this, the comprehensive book about it, called The NONI Solution, it had escalated to over 90 references. So it just was shooting up. More and more people, more and more health professionals were finding out about it and studying it.